Let's get on to the IMF. Of course, some of these stories were part of what the IMF released in its Article 4 consultation with Nigeria. This report is just out about 2 weeks to the spring meetings of the World Bank IMF meetings in Washington. That's starting on the 17th of April. So, just about 3 weeks from now. So what do you make out of this? Let's get to talk to economist and chief executive officer at Financial Derivatives Company, Bismarck Rewane by name. Good morning, sir. Thanks for coming through. Okay, I guess a bit of a internet not easing there. We want a bit of an easing in the internet so that we can get to talk to us. Mr. Rewane, thank you very much for coming through. Hope you had a nice weekend.
Yeah, I did. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you very much. Weigh in on this for us, the latest IMF Article 4, some of the positives and the recommendations. But let's start from some of the, what's your thought on this latest document?
I think the IMF report was very, it was objective. It acknowledged that the Nigerian economy remains challenged. It also acknowledged the fact that the turnaround has started. It appreciated the fact that the good news is that the government was able to increase.
I guess we lost them there. A little bit of a bit patchy there as far as the internet was concerned this morning. Part of what you found in the IMF Article 4 consultation report that Bismarck, Mr. Rewane just says it was positive and welcoming was that the IMF Executive Board also welcomed the new economic recovery growth plan of the Nigerian government. Says, broadly speaking, it was good, but that the Senator Udoma's Ministry of National Planning and Budget will have to work on more structural reforms and walk through this document and do a number of things on the fiscal side, whether it has to do with taxes on VAT, luxury taxes, and what have you. A lot has to be done. Of course, they asked the Nigerian government to also try to contain the expanding fiscal deficit of states and local governments. That's one of the key points also of that document. Meantime, a bit of a kudos to the Central Bank of Nigeria under Godwin Emefiele for some FX easing. And of course, you've seen this morning some of the numbers coming through from the PMI regarding the month of March. Mr. Rewane, thanks for having you back.
Yeah, thank you. I'm here. Now, what I was saying was that the IMF actually appreciated the ERGP, which is the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. But what they emphasized are the things that we need to do. They talked about front-loading of revenue and fiscal consolidation. In other words, Nigeria needs to increase excise duty, needs to increase the VAT, and more than anything else, Nigeria needs to actually allow the exchange rate become a free-floating exchange rate with a convergence. Actually increasing the supply and spasmodically will not help the situation. It will only lead to exchange rate volatility. So they commended the central bank for what has happened so far, but they need to go further. If not, this will be a fragile recovery. But most important is that they emphasize the fact that the banking sector resilience is under pressure. Something has to be done to monitor the banking system because the non-performing loans, the corporate mortality rate, and the increase amongst financial institutions is becoming higher than normal. So something needs to be done about that. All said, I think the IMF Article 4 endorsement was pretty positive, and you can see out of that the $500 million tap Eurobond actually came in at a rate lower than the previous rate at 7.5% from 7.75. So all things look positive, but there's a lot to be done. And the central bank has to be more assertive in terms of its exchange rate policy, in terms of changing market structure, rather than trying to determine the price.
Okay, now you've touched on what should we do with the IMF recommendations and all of that. But in practical terms, what would you like to see? We're starting a second quarter of the year. We don't have a budget in place. The National Assembly is still kicking the PIB around, the petroleum industry, so you don't really know where it is at the moment. So what practical steps do you think we should take in the second quarter to kick things off very nicely?
First and foremost, you've got to make sure that oil production remains constant at almost 2 million barrels. That means you must engage the militants in the Niger Delta to make sure that there's no more sabotage. 2, we have to engage with OPEC to ensure that the price level is maintained. But more importantly is the fact that we cannot be a slow stop-go economy. We need to take all the steps that are required in terms of appointing boards, making the policies, making sure the budget is passed, making sure that the spending and the contracts, mobilizing the contractors and everything, especially power and transport, should come together so that infrastructure spending, which will unlock unemployed resources, will help to actually stimulate the economy. The economy needs stimulation from a recession into a recovery path. There's enough. We have been long on rhetoric and short of action. Now it's time to begin to act. But most important is 2 things. 1, keep the oil production up and the price. You have no control over price, so the revenue. And then make sure to allow the both the oil companies, the central bank, and everybody can sell and buy in an open market. The central bank can intervene with whatever the resources they have, but cannot begin to fix prices. Price control never works.
A final one, despite the patchy nature of the internet, very quick one. A very strong warning, very subtle, however, by the IMF to watch the fiscal deficit of states and local governments in that report.
The federal government controls only 55% of the economic activity of this country. If you have fiscal consolidation at the federal level and you don't have it at the state level, you'll have a problem. However, if you allow the exchange rate to depreciate, I think the state governments will have enough naira to meet their obligations. You cannot give the states dollars at 305. That is, give them 305 for the dollars, their dollars, and then expect them to buy goods when the exchange rate, the actual effective exchange rate, is 400. It is important that the central bank now allows the 305 to depreciate more towards the market, maybe 340, maybe 350, and then you allow everybody to be what we call a real effective exchange rate rather than a managed artificial rate, which is what you have today.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Rewane. We appreciate your time and do have a great week and, of course, a very fruitful month of April, business-wise, from all of us here at Channels Television. Thank you very much here for coming through on Business Morning today. Mr. Rewane, economist and chief executive officer at Financial Derivatives Company. Let's get back to some of the stories that you've been seeing there, but let's go back to what the FBN Quest latest, as far as the PMI reading was concerned, called the Purchasing Managers Index. That's what the PMI stands for. That's the index that mirrors the manufacturing sector. This is an independent survey every month by FBN Quest, and it says that this index was much better or healthier in the month of March, from 50.0 at the end of February to 52.8 in the month of March. Of course, it says because there's an improvement in business confidence within the manufacturing sector. And it says that in responses to questions that were asked industrialists and manufacturers, what made it possible? And the response was that they referred to naira appreciation and greater availability of raw materials. Remember, from the end of last year, in the last quarter, the Central Bank of Nigeria has been putting hundreds of millions of dollars in the forward FX market, scaling what is available to manufacturers to buy raw materials, buy the machinery they need at the forward FX market. And what this report says, that is already working, and that was what was responsible for the manufacturing data getting much better in the month of March, 52.8 reading. That's one news we have this morning. We're going to follow this throughout today and the rest of the week, and we'll see how it goes from here. When we come back after the break, Moses Tule is the director in charge of monetary policy at the Central Bank of Nigeria, and is weighing in on the FS conversation, the entire report for the first quarter, and outlook on the second.